following program contains explicit calls to political action. If you are addicted to the tax-exempt status, Randall might not be right for you. Check with your little sister.
Whose face would you like to see on Washington, D.C. buses? I mean, besides your own. Or mine.
Standing for truth in the four corners of America. Fighting for justice on the frontiers of the culture wars. And turning resistance into an art form. Randall Terry.
Welcome to the program, friend. All right. Edward Snowden. Yes, Edward Snowden's face is going to be on buses in Washington, D.C. The Civil Justice Fund, the Partnership for the Civil Justice Fund, is raising money right now to put pictures of Edward Snowden's face on buses in Washington, D.C., saying, "Thank you, Edward Snowden." Those bureaucrats, those tyrants in Washington, D.C., who have all but destroyed our constitutional protections, are at least going to have to be reminded of their treachery and their tyranny. By the way, Rand Paul, as you know, is probably going to run for president. He is doing a bang-up job, sounding moderate, yet also sounding patriotic as he goes after the NSA spying program. And he recently did a video, had some great lines in it. And I want to quote this one, by the way. He said, "Will we be sunshine patriots, or will we stand up like free men and women and say, enough is enough, we want our freedoms back"? I love that line. Sunshine patriots. What is a sunshine patriot? It's somebody who talks a mean game when they're in the ghetto. In other words, when we're in church, we raise our hands or we'll sit and pray in a very pious manner because it's an expression of our devotion. We'll sing the songs, we'll say amen, we'll profess our devotion to Christ, which is good, and it's as it should be. But what do we do when we go out of church? When we're outside of the four walls, the safe four walls of our church, do we profess our faith? Do we talk to strangers? Do we ask people to not use the name of God or the name of our Lord Jesus in vain? Do we take opportunities to share our faith with people who are hurting or people who are arrogant? A person's mettle is proved not what they do in a time of ease, but what they do in a time of distress. And so Rand Paul spoke of sunshine patriots. We get together in our little pro-life meetings or our little political action meetings or our little Tea Party meetings, and we'll rant and we'll rave. What do we do when it's tough? When we're taking heat? When we risk losing our job? When we risk offending our family or our in-laws or our neighbors? In other words, are the principles that we say we believe hidden under a bushel, or do we bring them out for the whole world to see? Or as Rand Paul said, are we sunshine patriots? He said we have to fight to get our freedom back. I concur. The question is, what or who defines freedom? The United Nations, for example, has many treaties, international treaties, to which nations have acceded or agreed to. One of the treaties that the UN has is on human rights. The freedom to criticize your government, the freedom to worship how you want, the freedom of press, freedom of association, things like this. Freedom to elect your own officials. The Chinese government has not acceded to that. They've not agreed to it. They're not a part of it. The Chinese are a part of another UN treaty that calls for freedom from hunger. And so when China criticizes the West, criticizes Western nations and says, we are committed to freedom, they've used the word to say, well, we've committed to our people that they will be free from hunger, free from want. Now, we're going to kill their babies in order to make sure that everyone has enough food. We're going to have a 1 child per family limit. But this is what true freedom is all about. So the question is, who gets to define freedom? When Peter said in chapter 2 of 1 Peter, when he said, live as free men. 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 16. Live as free men. Who gets to define what free men live like? Every day in America, over 3,500 babies are torn apart by abortion. Shouldn't all babies, like this living, unborn child, have the right to life? Baby killing will only end when Americans see the truth of what abortion does to innocent children. You can help end this Holocaust by showing the truth of abortion in your area with a Face the Truth tour. Go to facethetruthamerica.com to set up a Face the Truth tour in your area. The babies and their mothers will be eternally grateful. How would you like to be able to reach hundreds of thousands, perhaps millions of potential customers with your product or your company or your web-based business? Well, you can do that right here on this show. Every single day, we get phone calls or letters or orders online from states all over the country where people are watching this television show. Right now, we are seen in 45 cities at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time every night, and then a rerun again at 12:30 midnight. You can reach them using this show at advertising rates that are so inexpensive, it would blow your mind. So, if you're interested, contact us at the phone number that you see on the screen or the email address, and we can talk about how you can grow your business and help support this show.
Boy, look at me. You's free. You are free of ever having to worry again about where you're going to get your next meal. You's free. Free of having to worry about whether or not you're ever going to have a roof over your head. You's free. Free of worrying about where you're going to have to travel. You's free about worrying about the shoes on your feet, the shirt on your back, or the trousers on your legs. You's free. You hear me, son?
Yes, massa. I mean, really, a white supremacist slave owner committing the abominable crime of man-stealing and slavery could try and tell his slaves that they were free, right? Because he said, I'm going to feed you. I'll make sure you've got a roof over your head. Make sure you've got shoes on your feet so you can work on my plantation. Right? They were free of hunger. I mean, as long as they did what the massa said. They were free of nakedness. They weren't going to fear being out in the elements in the cold because they had a barn or a shed to sleep in. I mean, who gets to define freedom? The slave owner? Our political masters of the federal plantation? The Chinese? Or does the definition of freedom emerge, not from us, not from humans? Does the definition of freedom come to us from above? Is it transcendent? Is the definition something that we get to debate, something that we get to decide, and therefore can change over time, right? Because if we can debate it and decide what freedom is today, well, a generation from now, they can debate it and decide something completely different. Or is the definition of freedom and the experiment or the experience of freedom by that definition Does that definition come to us from someone outside the box? Is it a fixed definition? Is it somehow related to the Ten Commandments? If you and I will stand for freedom and justice in the public square, whether it's regarding overturning Obamacare or fighting for Obamacare, whether it's fighting for true currency, whether it's fighting to keep the government out of our homes and out of our emails and out of our phone calls, whether it's fighting to keep the money that we have earned so that every man can sit under his own fig tree, or fighting to take our neighbor's property so that our neighbor can pay for our food stamps and our health care, right? Whatever it is that we're fighting for, it behooves us to step back and ask, who gets to define the terms? Who gets to define what is freedom and what is slavery? What is justice and what is oppression? What is injustice and what is righteousness in the public square? True justice. One of the great problems that we face as we go forward, discussing Obamacare, discussing the NSA spying on us, looking at Rand Paul's words, looking at the history of this republic, one of the great crises that we face is that the Christian community has lost its ability to think in Christian terms. The Christian faith has been reduced in many circles to a means of personal salvation, perhaps a means of our family being saved, and our family being prayerful and peaceful and having inner peace and hopefully some stability and prosperity. For many people, that is the essence of Christianity. They don't think in terms of Christianity having a blueprint for a just society, for a free society. So when the Apostle Peter writes, live as free men, most Christians can't even define what Christian liberty and Christian freedom means using a biblical, historic Christian framework and vernacular and description. And so many of us are wandering around on the federal plantation thinking that we're free while we actually have bowed our knee to tyrants, looking into Uncle Sam's eyes, saying, yes, massa. Do you want to have knowledge, wisdom, discernment? If so, you have to read good books on theology, history, books that look at the lives of great men and women. So to help you to become a more effective Christian, a better witness for truth, somebody who can engage in productive conversation that exhorts and edifies those that you speak with, we're going to do something crazy. We're offering you these 7 books for a gift of any size. You just pay for the shipping and handling, and then give whatever gift that you can, and we will send them to you. But just to make it a little bit more crazy, I will send you a second copy of my 3 books, autographed. You can give them as a gift to your pastor or to a family member and help extend truth and justice in the world. This is while supplies last.
The first duty of a university is to teach wisdom, not trade, character, not technicalities. Sir Winston Churchill.
Welcome back, friend. We are all called at various points to comfort the afflicted. We are. And at other times, I think that we might be called to afflict the comfortable. One of the minor prophets said, woe to those that are at ease in Zion. Woe to those who are at ease in Zion. We see this prophetic picture again and again in the scriptures when God's people are at ease when they should be grieving and weeping. James said, let your joy be turned to sorrow, let your laughter be turned to mourning. Be afflicted, howl and weep. The reason that we should be doing that from time to time is because things are bad, right? rejoice with those who rejoice, weep with those who weep. And then there are times when we should weep because of the things that burden God's heart and that grieve him. All right, I'll switch gears just a little bit because there's going to be a lot of weeping going on. And I, again, want to say to those people who are Christians who voted for Barack Hussein Obama, I hope that you are asking God to forgive you. And I hope that you're doing what you can to mitigate the horrific consequences of your actions in the voting booth. Now, what horrific actions are coming up? Well, we know that a little over 5 million insurance cancellations of people who have individual policies with various insurance carriers. We know that a little over 5 million people have lost their insurance in the last 45 days because of Obamacare. And those 5 million people have you and I to thank if we voted for Obama, at least in part. I mean, we put him in office to do these deeds. But listen, the worst is yet to come. And I want to say their name right, the American Enterprise Institute, which is a conservative think tank, has released a report in which they say that the Obama administration itself knows that between 50 and 100 million cancellations are coming within the next year. Not 5 million, between 50 and 100 million cancellations. See, the first wave of people that got canceled were folks that just had insurance policy. Like you're self-employed and you cut a deal with an insurance carrier. Well, the insurance carrier's coverage of you did not sync up with what Obamacare demanded, so they canceled you. All right? Well, there's small businesses, 50 people and under, and then larger businesses, over 50, who anticipate doing one of two things. One is laying off staff so that they get down under the 50 full-time employee threshold, which is happening right now all over the country. In fact, I don't remember what the number was, and I don't want to misquote it. 27% of companies who are franchise companies, like say a McDonald's or a Burger King, who have more than 50 employees, are laying off full-time employees and giving people part-time hours because they get under the wire and they don't have to give people insurance. They don't have to give people Obamacare. But then there's other people, big companies, people perhaps like you or your spouse or someone that you know or love who works for a larger corporation. They are going to have to either get their policies synced up with what Obamacare demands, or they're going to have to cancel. And so this particular think tank believes that up to 100 million people are going to have their insurance canceled and be driven into a new policy which is more expensive, or they're going to go to the exchanges and see what they can drum up. At the end of the day, there's going to be a lot of weeping. There's going to be a lot of grief. And I'm sorry to let you know this ahead of time if you haven't figured it out, but this is going to impact all of us in a severe way. And in my opinion, a studied opinion, the people who need to grieve and to weep and to ask for forgiveness and to bring forth fruit of repentance are the Christians who voted for this tyrant to be in office. Do you want to get America out of the hands of wicked and unjust men and women who are destroying the republic before our eyes, and put leadership back into the hands of righteous men and women so that we don't die as a nation? Well, you're talking about social revolution, and there are rules in social revolution. We can look at the victorious social revolutions of the past, such as the end of slavery, the end of child labor, women's voting rights, the end of segregation, and so much more, and learn from their victories. Look at their actions, their images, their rhetoric, their sacrifices, and their final fruit. We will send you this series that originally cost $129, 7 books for students, 1 teacher's guide, if you'll give a gift of any size and just pay for shipping and handling. Take advantage of it today. One of my favorite organizations in the world is committed to, if not eradicating crime, lowering it. All right? And lowering the cost of incarcerating criminals in the penal justice system. And I actually have had a lot of discussions with people about this, standing in front of big political galas and talking with well-dressed, wealthy people, saying, in effect, these words: why worry about paying tens of thousands of dollars to take care of criminals when for $400 you can ensure that they never commit a crime? Just kill them. I mean, that's what Planned Parenthood is committed to doing, right? You know that Margaret Sanger and one of her buddies, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, on the Supreme Court, that they wanted the minorities and those sections of the populace that were rifled and riddled with crime, that they be suppressed through birth control and through killing their babies. Don't you remember Ruth Bader Ginsburg just a few years ago did an interview with the New York Times, and she in effect said that we were really glad when Roe versus Wade happened, and we thought that it would end up cutting back criminals and therefore crimes by killing them. So I stood, and I'm telling you this because I need to fill up a segment. I'm telling you this because there's a time when irony and truth and controversy are inextricably linked, okay? So in 2008, some associates and I stood in front of the Democratic National Convention in Denver, Colorado, when a large group of well-dressed, wealthy African Americans were coming for some gala affair, obviously celebrating an African American getting the nomination. And I stood out there with a bullhorn, surrounded by police because people were so angry. And I said, kill early, kill often. You can ensure that instead of 1 in 4 African American boys ending up in a gang or on probation or in jail or in prison, committing some crime against you and your loved ones, you can ensure that he'll never commit a crime with just a $400 abortion. Kill early, kill often. Now, I know that those words are offensive, and they were meant to be. They were meant to be. I was trying to jar them and say, look, people, don't you understand? Planned Parenthood and Obama and the people who are promoting child killing are committed to genocide, all right? It's not just that they're committed to killing unborn babies, but they are particularly committed to killing African American babies. Why is it that African American women make up 12% of the population, but 1/3 of babies that are murdered are African American babies? Why is it that Planned Parenthood keeps putting their abortion mills and their control apparatus for who gets pregnant in minority neighborhoods? Okay? Planned Parenthood just opened up a $6.5 million abortion mill in Fort Worth, Texas, right next door to an adoption agency. This is reprehensible. It's disgusting. It is demonic. And I look for the day when Planned Parenthood's name is said with the same contempt that we say the name of Adolf Hitler or any of the other bloodthirsty tyrants that have cursed the human horizon over the last few centuries. Planned Parenthood is from the pit of hell. They are committed to murder, and they're committed to black genocide. When will the African American community wake up and realize what has happened to them? you.